Hi. In my last video I was talking about perinatal depression. It would seem the natural progression therefore to talk about postnatal depression. It can be common for those who have had perinatal depression to go on to have postnatal depression, although it's not always the case. I will add some links into the description when I post up this video with some more information. Again, not an expert here, so I can only give you what my experience is and direct you towards what the professionals say. I've been dealing with mental health issues for some time now, on and off, before I even became a mum. So I always thought, I know the symptoms, I know the signs. I'm getting pretty good at recognising when I'm not coping so well, not doing so good. So I thought, when the baby came, I would know if I was struggling. I think it probably didn't help that when I was struggling through my pregnancy, I had assumed it was the hormones, etc., as I said in my last video. And so I was never diagnosed with perinatal depression. I know about, they talk about baby blues, and I thought when my son first came along, I thought, well, baby blues. And then I thought, as time went on, when does baby blues become postnatal depression? So I clearly knew there was something just not right. But I don't know if I was in denial or what, but my son was about 4 or 5 weeks old before no, be longer than that. That's the thing with mental health or depression, anxiety, etc. As you're going through it, when you're looking back, a lot of it can kind of blur into each other. Timelines kind of disappear. I think my son was nearly 4 months old when I eventually realised this is not right. And the biggest thing I remember feeling, as I admitted to my husband that I wasn't coping, I felt I'd already failed my son. Depression's good at telling the lies like that. It's hard because growing up you always have this idea, or, well, maybe not everybody has this idea, but I certainly had this idea of the kind of wife I'd be, the kind of mother I'd be. And I could feel inside myself I wasn't being that person. I was someone else. I struggled to have patience with my son. Yeah, he was just a baby. He cried for a feed, cried for a nappy change. I struggled to have patience with him. That I'm looking back at, it's tough to admit. It's painful to admit. People would say to me, you know your son, he's your son. And I would think to myself, I don't know him. I don't know his cries. Everyone seems to know his cries. I don't know his cries. You know, they talk about cry for a feed, a cry for a nappy change, a cry for comfort, a cry for tiredness. And I remember recognising them with, like, my nieces and nephews. And then he came along and I'm like, why am I not hearing a difference? Why can't I tell what he needs, what he wants? I'm his mother. I should know this. A week, for the first week, my husband went back to work after paternity leave. He'd managed to get 3 weeks off because it worked out really well. We found out what date our son was due, and he hoped for the best and thought, well, if he comes on his due date, 2 weeks after that, I'll take the following week off as a holiday. He was listening to his daddy because he came on bang on his due date, which meant I had 3 weeks of having my husband about to help me. And even then, after 3 weeks, I didn't feel ready for him to go back to work. I didn't want him to go back to work. I wanted him to stay. And I knew there was still that logic in there saying, you still got to get money, you still got to earn to be able to feed this child, to feed each other. First week back, by the end of that week, my son Joseph had worked out roughly when my husband would get home from work. He works in a call centre and quite often would be getting home about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. He would finish work at about 11 p.m. And on average, most nights, if not every night, Joseph woke up between about 20 to 11 and 10 past 11. It wasn't quite always the same time each night, but it was within that kind of window. And by this point, I'm already exhausted, desperate for my bed, and having to wait until my husband got home because Joseph wouldn't go back to sleep and he wouldn't settle. I felt like I missed out on a lot during that time. People can tell you the specific age of when they said the first word or did this or did that for the first time. And there's some things I can, because maybe something significant was around it. Like, the day he took his first steps, not holding on to anything, was the day of his first birthday party, which was the day before his first birthday. So that kind of helped to pinpoint that in my memory. Things like when he started furniture walking, or when he said Mum for the first time or Dad for the first time. There's little things that I still remember, like at 3 weeks old, him trying to put weight into his legs as if to stand. I remember being so amazed. I'm like, what are you doing? You're too young to be trying that yet. During that first year, I was in such a bad way that I quite often found myself telling family members he'd be better off if they took him away from me. He's almost 7. I'm thankful that nobody listened to me, because he is the light of my life. I'd be lost without that boy. And to think of how I was in his first year, I still find myself feeling like I let him down. I still feel sometimes that I could have done so much better by him. And I know logic says, but you weren't well. And I did reach out for support eventually. And some people don't even reach out as quickly as 4 months. Some people don't even realise what's going on. They don't have the past experience to know that what they're going through is depression. Sometimes they can be scared as well to reach out because they're scared they're going to be seen as incapable. I know that I sometimes felt that way. And a lot of people feel that if they admit to feeling numb towards a child, something I felt quite often. I mean, there was that niggle inside, it's like there's love there somewhere, I can feel it, I just can't reach it. And you feel, if you admit that, or you admit that you can't cope, you admit that you're struggling, you admit that you're having to write down the time you gave him medication for his teething because you're frightened you're going to overdose him, and because you forgot when you gave him it. You think, who would leave a child with someone like that? Of course they'd take him away. But I reached out, I got help, I got support, I spoke with health visitor, spoke with the doctor, got on medication. And got through it. Almost 7 years on and he's still alive, so I'm very happy and keeps me happy. I am so proud of him. Because despite my health, he's come through quite the wee trooper. And such a caring wee boy. Such a loving wee boy. And if I could go back and do it all over again, I would, just to be able to enjoy it, to treasure it, to soak it in. I think the biggest thing in getting through postnatal depression with a newborn and random sleep times and feed times, etc. I think the only way is to seek out that support and that help. If there's one advice I would give just anyone out there who feels like they're struggling with postnatal depression, it's much the same as what I said about perinatal depression. Seek support. For the first, I think it's 10 days, you still have a midwife come to see you. Be honest with them about how you feel. You then get your health visitor. Be honest with them. And at any point you feel like you need that extra support, say to them, say to your loved ones. It's not easy, I know. I really know. But it could be the difference between successfully getting through your depression whilst caring for a young baby, or the worst case scenario happening. Most people want the first option. Health visitor, GP, friends, family. Reach out to them all. Whoever you feel most comfortable with. If you're concerned about somebody with possibly having postnatal depression, talk to them, offer them support, ask them what they need in terms of support. One thing that I struggled with was when I told a couple of friends, they thought they were doing good by me because they were offering to take me and the baby out in the morning when my husband's still around. But I could get through the morning because my husband was still around. It was the afternoons when it was just me and him on my own. That's when I needed the support. And I felt so alone and so isolated. And I wouldn't see anybody unless I specifically arranged it. So yeah, I'm not sure what else I can say. I really wish you all the best. Whether you're going through it, whether you know someone going through it. And if you've been there, it's good to watch out for the signs for others, because I strongly believe the earliest intervention in mental health is the better, because you can get on top of it quicker, you can get the support quicker, and if you need the medication, you get on that quicker, because it can take up to 6 weeks to get into your system when you first start antidepressants. And then you've got all the time that it takes to make sure you got the right dose, the right type, because everybody's bodies react differently to each antidepressant and each dose, and everybody's depression is different. If the first tablets don't work, you try another and another until you find the right ones and the right dose, and you listen to your body, because your body will be telling you. I know it's not easy when there's a big depression fog going on, and it does take some practice to get used to trying to hear to the muffles underneath that fog. But the biggest thing I say is communication, talking to people. Thank you for listening. Take care.